CTV News with Angela Mackenzie.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Quebec's police watchdog, the BEI, is investigating after a Montreal police officer was stabbed and another person was shot during a police operation in Montreal's Saint-Michel neighborhood. According to Montreal police, the person was injured by police gunshot and is in serious condition. The officer's life is not in danger. Officers were called to a home on 14th Avenue near Émile Girneau Avenue. CTV News has learned police were conducting a wellness check related to a domestic dispute. A command post has been set up near the scene, and the BEI is asking witnesses to come forward. Well, the Crown Prosecutor's Office has suspended proceedings in the case involving 11 teenagers who were with a South Shore teen on the day he was killed by Longueuil police. Montreal police arrested the teens in June after Quebec's police watchdog asked the force to investigate the events leading up to Nouron Rezahi's death. The charges included conspiracy to kidnap, concealing their identity, and unlawful assembly. Today, the Crown revealed new evidence has come to light in the past month and a half, and a complex legal issue is raised, leading to the stay of proceedings. Eric Sutton, a criminal defense lawyer who is not involved in this case, explains why charges are sometimes stayed.
In this case, they seem to have announced that they received new evidence that suggested to them that perhaps the prosecution would not reach a favorable conclusion if they proceeded with the charges. That may be the case. It may not be the case. We don't really know. They don't really have an obligation to disclose why. Sometimes they'll use this discretionary power if they have an ongoing parallel investigation that could be compromised if these proceedings continue and they have to disclose evidence that could, like I said, compromise a related investigation. Sometimes that power is used for that reason, and then they have a one-year window in which to resume the prosecution.
The BEI's parallel investigation into the shooting itself wrapped up in March, and the findings were submitted to the Crown. So far, no charges have been laid against the officer. A public visitation was held today at City Hall for Oliver Jones, the legendary jazz pianist, organist, composer, and arranger born in Little Burgundy. Members of the public were invited to pay their respects at Montreal City Hall. Christine Long was there.
Oliver Jones visited this Hall of Honor many times during his life for awards and celebrations. Today, his son Richard Jones expressed gratitude for a life well lived and loved.
Sincerely like to thank all Canadians for their love and support of my father throughout his long and illustrious career. A special thanks to the beautiful people and admirers in our great province of Quebec. You have supported my father's career for decades.
A musical son of Little Burgundy, Jones's talents were nurtured by incredible pianists like Oscar Peterson and Daisy Peterson Sweeney. His career took him around the world, yet Jones remained a modest man.
His wonderful qualities, his humility, his kindness, and his loyalty to his friends.
Memories, emotions.
Hard to believe.
He was a great person.
Jones's own support of young talents helped nurture the next generation.
I think it's mostly thanks to him that we have so many young pianists, young jazz musicians in Montreal with such talent.
Talent like Daniel Clark Bouchard, who first played with Jones when he was 7.
Such a giving person and always made time for people, and just a generous artist as well. Always gave his best every time he would perform, and so that always rubbed off on me and was an inspiration to me.
Jones first played piano at the Union United Church when he was very young. Thursday, that community will gather to say farewell in a public funeral service that brings his remarkable journey full circle.
I'm saddened by his loss, but I'm extremely grateful that I can come here and pay respect, because he was a humble and gracious person, and he was so much loved by Union, and Union has loved him back with the same passion. And we are just grateful that he's given so much to the Burgundy community, to the Union community.
back to where his talents were nurtured before music would carry him to concert halls around the world. Jones died last month at the age of 91. He leaves behind a son, Richard, and his widow, Monique Leclerc. Christine Long, CTV News.
Canada and the U.S. have struck a tentative deal to pause the new 50% tariffs Donald Trump was going to impose on Canadian exports to the U.S. Both sides of the negotiating table seem happy, but it's not clear what exactly they've agreed to. Sources tell CTV News that there will be reductions in tariffs on steel and aluminum. Canadian Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says supply management is entirely intact. Following a virtual meeting between the premiers and Prime Minister Mark Carney tonight, Quebec Premier Christine Frechette says she still doesn't know if the agreement is good for Quebec.
I don't have sufficient information in order to decide if it's a good agreement or not. I have to get more information from Ottawa. I asked many questions and they've taken them in note. We will talk again tomorrow or maybe Friday, we'll see. When I get all the information, the additional information, I will be able to decide if it's a good agreement or not for Quebec. I'm here to protect businesses, workers, and the supply management need to be maintained, the cultural exception need to be maintained, and therefore, until I get new information, I won't be able to position myself.
Frechette held 2 emergency meetings last week with representatives from key sectors that could be affected by the tariffs, including dairy, forestry, and aluminum industries. Well, Montreal's Chamber of Commerce also reacted to the tariff news today as it put out its wish list for the upcoming election. One of its priorities is to reverse a controversial CAQ decision. Kelly Gregg reports.
It's the talk of the business world, an uncertain future with an unpredictable U.S. president.
Those protective approach in USA is probably there to stay. So it is for us, you know, we've said it was a wake-up call.
The Montreal Chamber of Commerce's so-called Livre Blanc starts by showing just how loud those alarm bells are. It shows the Global Uncertainty Index, which measures economic doubts worldwide. That peaked in January 2025 when Donald Trump took office. It's in that context that the Chamber is preparing for the upcoming provincial election. Priority 1 is cut down on bureaucracy.
We are right now one of the worst places in terms of jurisdiction where to open new business in terms of regulation.
The Chamber says small businesses spend more than $40,000 per year filling out government paperwork.
Putting the same information all the time. So what we're saying is once is enough.
And that eye towards efficiency is extended to construction. It's calling for the creation of an independent oversight body to ensure infrastructure projects are on budget and on time.
So out of the electoral cycle, for example, you know, that can have a vision over 10 years.
Some of the projects it's supporting include modernizing Olympic Stadium, redeveloping the Hippodrome site, and updating IGA Stadium to ensure the National Bank Open stays in Montreal. The Chamber is also attacking a specific government policy. It wants the tuition hikes for out-of-province and international students to be scrapped. In February, McGill and Concordia gave up their legal battle over the fees.
I think that many of us are very sad and at some point angry about it, and that right now we should completely reverse how we see those jewels that are our universities.
It says now the uncertainty isn't just the economic situation, but who will be in power to navigate it. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
Charles Milliard is meeting with the mayors of Montreal and Laval today. He says if a Liberal government is elected in October, it will invest in public transit. But in a week where other party leaders are grabbing headlines, some wonder if Milliard is doing enough to get voters' attention. Matt Gilmore reports.
Emerging from a closed-door meeting inside Montreal City Hall, the Liberal leader Charles Milliard says he's taking note of the needs of Quebec's largest city, including modernizing the metro.
I reassured the mayor that I will be very active on that file, and we discuss other other topics such as homelessness.
The pre-election campaign has been busy for Milliard's opponents. On Monday, Christine Frichette announced a major energy agreement in Churchill Falls. The next day, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon tried to steal back the spotlight by delaying plans for a third referendum until after Donald Trump leaves office.
So in all of that, where's Charles Milliard? Where are the Liberals? Honestly, they're nowhere. They're not part of the conversations.
Where the Liberals are is second in the polls, just 5 points behind the Parti Québécois. But according to Tom Mulcair, who is a former Liberal minister, Milliard is at risk of losing non-sovereigntist votes to a resurgent CAQ.
That divided vote could hand the keys to the National Assembly to Saint-Pierre Plamondon with barely 30% of the vote. And that's why people are taking a good hard look at who they're thinking of voting for.
Milliard believes this is still a two-horse race.
The CAQ, or Équipe Christine Fréchette, which is, by the way, the same thing, is trying to create, a lutte à trois, but from all the people that I've met in the past weeks and months, Quebecers are done with the CAQ.
But for this former Liberal strategist, the party needs to offer something more.
What precisely makes the situation dangerous for the Liberals is being the automatic choice of no voters is no longer enough. How can we identify exactly the reason why a Quebecer would vote for Charles Milliard? And this needs to be addressed.
The campaign is expected to officially begin sometime next week. But for the leaders vying to be Quebec's next premier, it appears to already be in full swing. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
A class action lawsuit has been filed in Quebec Superior Court over the bogus cans of maple syrup that were allegedly diluted with cane sugar. The plaintiff originally filed an application for a class action lawsuit in April, naming the syrup producer, Rabies, Steve Bordeaux. Now, several major grocery store chains have been added, including Metro, Loblaws, and Sobeys. The filing claims they betrayed customers' trust, accusing them of negligence for putting the bogus syrup on shelves. The lawsuit is seeking refunds and $100 in punitive damages per class member. Well, the REM shut down again during the morning rush hour twice. Trains between Central Station and Brassard weren't operating when the REM opened at 5:30 this morning because of overnight maintenance issues. That shutdown eventually affected the entire network, forcing the evacuation of some trains. Full service resumed around 9:30, but there was another service interruption again about an hour later for a separate issue. That prompted a post on social media from Quebec's transport minister demanding answers. The REM called an afternoon press conference to explain.
We had a second event this morning. That was a collision of a truck on one of the infrastructure at the entrance of Gare Centrale. That stopped the service again between Panama and Gare Centrale. That was out of our control. So we did what we were supposed to do in that case: inspection of the structure, inspection of the rails, and after that we resumed the service at 11:15, and we were expecting to have a normal service for this rush hour that is starting right now.
According to a tracking website, there have been 24 breakdowns on the light rail transit system in the past 3 months. Well, Health Canada is warning people not to use medical products sold by a store in Montreal North. Officials have seized contraceptives, antibiotics, and other items not approved for use in Canada, all sold at the Rabies 4 Saisons shop. Health Canada says the products haven't been tested for safety or effectiveness and aren't labeled in English and French. Some of the drugs seized aren't approved for use in humans, while others should only be used when prescribed by a doctor. Well, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is confirming that he would eliminate Santé Quebec if the PQ forms the next provincial government. Plamondon told the Montreal Chamber of Commerce in June that Quebec has too much bureaucracy and too many redundant agencies, pointing to Santé Quebec and Mobilité Infra as examples. He's now promising to wipe out Santé Quebec, which was created to oversee healthcare as part of a drive to reduce the size of Quebec's government. Still to come, rabies cases are increasing in Quebec. There's been a significant increase in the number of cases of rabies in Quebec. Right now, they are seen mostly in raccoons, but in recent weeks, there have been 2 cases of cats being infected. In those cases, people who were in contact with the cats had to be given preventative treatment. We spoke earlier to Dr. Donald Vinn, an infectious diseases specialist at the MUHC.
So rabies is a virus that can infect any mammal, including humans. It's transmitted when the saliva of an infected animal enters the body, usually through a bite, but also through a scratch, an open wound, or contact with the eyes, nose, or mouth. It is not spread simply by being near an animal or touching its fur with intact skin or coming into contact with its blood, urine, or feces. But rabies circulates primarily in wildlife, and controlling it there creates an important protective barrier between the virus and people. So the infected cats are a warning sign because by infecting pets that live alongside people, it means that the virus is crossing that barrier and moving closer to humans.
He adds the province will need to continue surveillance, wildlife vaccination, and close coordination with neighboring U.S. states for several years. Pet owners should ensure their animals' rabies vaccination is current. Well, there's a new cancer vaccine, and it's giving hope to people with melanoma. Yuri Benajud has more.
Pharmaceutical companies Moderna and Merck announcing that their new mRNA vaccine showed promising results. The vaccine is personalized to each patient and built from a patient's own tumor. It uses the same technology as COVID vaccines. The shot works to teach the immune system to recognize the unique genetic fingerprint of the cancer. Merck and Moderna say when paired with an existing immunotherapy, the shot helped reduce the risk of cancer returning or spreading further. The companies still need to publish their full clinical trial results, including whether the shot helps patients live longer. While there are other cancer vaccines already approved by the FDA, experts say that this new vaccine represents a step forward in the field. It remains unclear when the companies may apply for the shot to be FDA approved, but this is certainly hopeful news for the 1.5 million Americans living with melanoma. Yuri Benajad, ABC News, New York.
In soccer, it was a win for CF Montreal in Columbus against the Crew.
L'appel a été fait, ça libère de l'espace pour Streit qui va d'une frappe. Magnifique!
Noah Strait scored late in the second half, his first goal for CF Montreal. Prince Owusu also scored, becoming the 3rd player in club history to score 25 goals over 2 seasons. Final score 2-1 Montreal. Chilean legend Alexis Sanchez made his debut tonight, coming on as a substitute for Strait in the 79th minute. He's expected to play his first home game Saturday when CF Montreal hosts the Los Angeles Galaxy. And CF Montreal will be inducting Lloyd Barker into its Wall of Fame this weekend. Barker was a star player for the team when it was called the Montreal Impact.
This is a recognition of my body of work. And so for that, for me, it's so special. Everyone knows, everyone that knows me knows the ties and the connection that I have with this club since day one, as you pointed out. I was the first, I played in the first game. And basically, as I tell everyone, that's when the love affair started. And it's been a beautiful love affair that has started then, and it continues to this day. So it's extremely, extremely special for me. It's really touching that I get this honor and I get to come back and be recognized in front of all those beautiful fans.
Barker will be inducted at the halftime ceremony during a match against the LA Galaxy on Saturday at Saputo Stadium. Well, one of the WNBA's brightest stars played in Toronto last night, but that wasn't enough to eclipse the controversial comments made by another member of the Indiana Fever. Heather Wright reports.
These were the long lines as fans waited hours before tip-off ahead of one of the most anticipated games in Toronto Tempo history.
Tempo ready to go.
Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever in town the first time the WNBA superstar has played north of the border.
It's like a dream.
11-year-old Joey Parr and her mom were among those who packed the arena, a sold-out crowd for tonight's matchup.
They can play. The passing is phenomenal. The teamwork, the shooting.
The popularity of women's professional sport continues to surge, with the Toronto Tempo tipping off its inaugural season in May. While the team usually plays at Coca-Cola Coliseum, tonight's game was moved to the larger Scotiabank Arena to accommodate the huge demand for tickets.
I want her to see these professional women playing sports, and hopefully she gets inspired.
But stealing attention from the play on the court are comments made by Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham. I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in a sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Those comments have been met with both praise and criticism.
I think she brings like a different edge to the game. She kind of speaks her truth, and everything kind of in life, especially right now in society, isn't going to work with everybody's vision, but she holds her truth.
Others accuse Cunningham of fear-mongering.
Trans women are not the reason that so many people right now are struggling, but they're such an easy target to pick on.
The WNBA says there are no immediate eligibility matters pertaining to trans athletes, and some experts say the issue is a distraction.
There isn't a huge number of trans women just in general. Like, this is not a large population, and then there's not even less that are competing in sports. And so it is this, like, they are sort of fabricating, I think, this discourse to get people riled up around an issue that doesn't exist.
The WNBA has set up a working group to discuss the issue of transgender eligibility, but so far, no decisions have been made. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
A longtime writer for The Simpsons, who predicted Donald Trump as president years before it actually happened, is making his own bid for the White House. He says he wants to return America to its fundamental values.
We've always fallen for this. We've always had hucksters and communists. We'll vote for somebody like Donald Trump. And that turned out to be true.
Dan Graney launched his campaign for the 2028 Republican presidential nomination earlier this year. He's known for writing the Simpsons episode from the year 2000, which looked into the future and saw President Lisa Simpson dealing with budget problems after a Trump presidency. Up next, he's a rare lobster who won't be ending up on anyone's dinner plate.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news. For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca.
A lobster currently living at a grocery store in Chatham, Ontario, is 1 in 30 million. Pumpkin isn't any ordinary lobster. He's an orange lobster. He turned up with a shipment of lobsters, but they say there's no plans to sell him. For now, Pumpkin will live in the lobster tank for people to enjoy. But they're also looking for an aquarium to serve as his permanent home.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Cloudy skies, periods of rain, and risks of thunderstorms. That's what dominated today's forecast. Now, tomorrow we'll see more sunshine and our temperatures will be a little bit warmer. Today we only hit a daytime high of 21, but the humidex was in effect and it felt like 27 at times. Now, we didn't break any rainfall records because we would have had to surpass 18.4 millimeters, and that was the record that was set in 2006. We did not come anywhere close. We barely even hit 5 millimeters here in Montreal. Now, putting our futurecast into motion, we are dealing with cloudy skies overnight. We will start to see some clearing in the morning, looking at a mix of sun and clouds, and that's what we're holding on to pretty much throughout the afternoon. We could see periods of peaks of sunshine, but overall it's going to be a sunnier day, certainly compared to today. Continuing to put that forward, we see clearing overnight, and that is ahead of Friday, where we're looking at a lovely day, mostly sunny skies as of right now. In terms of our temperatures overnight, well, we're sitting at 15 degrees, which is somewhat seasonal as an overnight low. Our winds will be calm, coming from the west at 15 kilometers an hour. They shift to the southwest in the morning, but staying at 15 kilometers an hour. Sun and clouds is what we're forecasting for tomorrow, with a daytime high of 24, feeling like 27. Here's what our longer range forecast looks like, and yes, we are seeing lots of sunshine. Friday, mostly sunny skies, a high of 26, feeling like 27, so we can see that the humidex is not a major factor on Friday. But when we look at Saturday, yes, we're dealing with sunshine, a high of 27, but it'll feel like 32, and we're looking at around 3 millimeters of rain into the evening hours, potentially overnight. Ahead of Sunday, where we have a risk of thunderstorms, 10 millimeters of rain there, 4 millimeters temperatures on Monday with only a high of 21, which we hold on to for Tuesday with a mix of sun and clouds. And next Wednesday, we're looking at a high of 24, but the humidex is not major that day. It'll feel like 26 with a mix of sun and clouds.
Thanks, Lauren. Well, that's it for us. For the latest news, you can head to the Andrew Carter Morning Show at 5 on CJD 800 or head to ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.